did say that if you were so inclined, you could go back to your original colours that we used in the stone walls, because those were the colours that felt right in our stomachs. They don't have to be the purples, even though I use turquoise, manganese and new gamboge, because it depends on how I mix them. Okay, so I could be totally different. Because that was my thinking in spending time playing with colour in week 1, was that we could actually carry it through. However, I then changed the whole thing and said that if you had a look at that link that I sent you, there was a whole lot of different paintings, a lot of them generated by AI, and you could actually change your colour scheme. What I am going to say is stick to 3 colours. 2 colours are good, 3 colours make mud. Okay, very, very easily. Just remember that. So no more than 3. For the purposes of today, I have done some little colour swatches, just to show you the differences, okay? And I've written down the names of the colours underneath them. I had already decided that I was going with green, blue and brown, and I've made a start, okay? I am also going to be using, and I didn't write it down, salt. So I'm going to write it here. I'm using salt, cling film, glazing.
What was the last one?
Glazing.
Oh.
Okay. So all the watercolour techniques that we know, we're going to choose 2 or 3 because why not? Choose one that maybe you're not so good at, like softening edges, and use it in all your shapes, because it's, at the end of the day, it's practice as well as anything else. So I've chosen salt, cling film and glazing. I am going to demonstrate some of them. The others that I've suggested, colour, so that's what we've spoken about, colour. Glazing, so if we have a blue, I'll show you in a bit, and we put a brown over it, so that square or shape started out the same colour blue as that, and then I put a different colour over the top of it, so I glazed over the top. I've used salt, I've used graded washes.
I love that, I think that's gorgeous.
And then lots of glazing. That's also dropping in paint wet into wet, dropping in paint wet into wet. That was salt, that was salt. You can even, take a tissue and lift out. That was cling film. That was salt. So what I'm going to do is, let me just talk about my thinking. I like to box things in. Okay, so I want you to look at my rhinos. So I did have a basic plan, and I wanted it blue, brown, and I'm going to have a strip of green-ish, okay? That's my moon. It's a nighttime scene. And the first thing I did was paint that with the areolan green, which is the rosa. Similar to green gold. I didn't do it all in one go. I actually did it in 1, 2, 3, 4 goes. Okay, so the idea is not necessarily to say, well, that's all going to be blue, I'll just paint 3 shapes at once. That's not necessarily the idea, unless you're going to paint those 3, allow them to dry, and then do a glaze over 1, 2, and maybe that will be the original colour. Okay, is that sort of, it evolves. You can't pre-plan too much because you've got to wait and see what happens. I like my corners to be dark. Okay. Now, with watercolour, which is what we're doing, we have the opportunity to get light and dark tone. Okay, so if we squint, and I squint at that, that is darker than that. That is darker than that, but that's the same colour because that has got 2 layers on it. Okay, we do not have that opportunity in acrylics.
Sorry.
In acrylics, the only way you can get light and dark is by using a lighter colour like yellow against a brown, a darker colour. Okay. So we are using all the watercolour techniques at our disposal to paint our picture. What I will say is don't go and put too many techniques into it. Keep it simple. If you go and say, right, I've got 10 techniques, I'm going to use them all in the painting, you're going to lose any coherence. And then people say, well, how am I going to make my rhino stand out? With cubism, if you look, very often, well, most of the time, you can't see the actual object. But because there's an eye or a nose, you can tell that it's a person. And it's the same with the rhinos. Even though my rhino is actually still in the shape of the rhino, by painting that and that the same colour, I can still lose the shape of him. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. But in my head, that rhino is going brown, and this, I think I said brown, I've left it out, and that one was going blue, and then green,